don't miss another update.
Namaste and welcome to this episode on strategic affairs. And I've got Yusuf Unjhawala with me. You know Yusuf very well. He is a defense and strategic expert and also a very regular at all the events of Jaipur Dialogues. He is, in fact, a founder member of the Jaipur Dialogues. Welcome, Yusuf. How are you?
Thank you, Sanjay. I'm good. How are you? And hi to all our viewers.
Okay, so viewers, we are going to discuss what is called One China policy and India's response to One China policy. Let me at the outset request Yusuf to please explain for the benefit of our viewers what exactly is this One China policy.
So there was a civil war in China, and the Communist Party came out trumps against the Nationalist Party of Chiang Kai-shek. So Mao won the war, and then the Nationalist Party moved to the island of Taiwan, and they call themselves Republic of China. And the mainland China is the People's Republic of China. Now, China tried over the years hard. So for a long time, till 1974, I think, Taiwan occupied the permanent seat in the UN, and China was later given the seat in Taiwan as well. And then China has doggedly pursued that in the entire uh, island and all its other territories that it occupies is all part of China, and there cannot be anything. There cannot be two China. So there cannot be a People's Republic of China. There cannot be a Republic of China. It's all one China, and Taiwan it's its renegade province, which it will reunite under its control someday, either peacefully or by force if necessary. So this is where China stands at. It will not entertain any thoughts of there being two Chinas, or with even if it means Republic of China or by any other name. And that goes probably with any of its other territories. So you have to accept that even Tibet is part of China, Xinjiang is part of China, which so basically to those are the red lines of the China, so that no outside party will try to support any of its internal fissures which exist.
I remember that famous statement by Sushma Swaraj, late Sushma Swaraj, where she said that if China wants us to respect its one China policy, then it has to respect the one India policy as well. So I think that was a very clear expression of intent, but it seems that we did not follow it up.
No, we have not followed it up, and to our detriment. I mean, look at the cost India has paid in terms of both economic costs as well as military costs or strategic costs of following this one China policy, or showing sensitivity to China with its one China policy. China has no such respect. I mean, it knows that Pakistan occupied Kashmir is integral to India. I mean, it doesn't recognize the whole of Jammu and Kashmir now as part of India. It claims entire Ladakh as it has done recently. So it has no respect whatsoever. But India has consistently shown respect to Chinese sensitivities and what its red lines were. But look at the cost India has paid today. Look at Taiwan. Taiwan is an industrialized country. It has advanced manufacturing technologies. It has advanced technologies, and Taiwan has played a very big role in China's industrial rise. It has a lot of investment in China. The Chinese have benefited from the technology and the work culture which the Taiwanese brought into China. India could have benefited from this. The Taiwanese have been asking for a trade deal with India for a very long time. We have not negotiated a trade deal, and partly because we don't want to, hurt China. I mean, look at the cost that India has paid. Imagine if India had signed a free trade agreement or some kind of a trade deal with Taiwan a decade back, or even say 6, 7 years back. India would have benefited immensely from the investments that Taiwanese companies have got to India, the flow of trade. I mean, we have diversified our electronic sources. I mean, Taiwan is one of the largest producers of electronics, and it has advanced technology. One of the biggest companies in the world, Foxconn, manufactures components for Apple. I mean, they are now into India, but their largest factories are in China. They have over 12 factories in China. Imagine getting all that to India. I mean, Obviously, that has to do a lot with our own domestic policies towards business. That's another uh, issue altogether. But we have not pursued some of the trade deals that we could have just because of these Chinese sensitivities, and that has been to our detriment.
I mean, it's quite intriguing that while China keeps nibbling at not only territories, but actually keeps advancing its claims over various paths. Initially, it was Arunachal, then it started moving towards Jammu and Kashmir. They started with what is called stapled visas, and now suddenly you find that they lay claim over the whole of Ladakh. And you never know. Tomorrow they might just lay a claim over the whole of Himachal or Uttarakhand or whatever, because rationality
Did
and
did
China's
Hunseng visit Delhi?
wherever a Chinese has visited, that is Chinese territory. So why don't we
Apparently, he has
reciprocate?
visited
Because a lot
Dwarka,
of
so
Indians
all the way till Gujarat.
no, you see, I did a program with Dr. Subhash Kak, and we find that the entire Tarim Basin, the entire Xinjiang, and the entire Buddhist culture that went into China, these are all Indians. Kumar Jeev, for instance, with Kumar Jeev as
It's all Sir India. Xinjiang was known
sorry,
as Sir India. Xinjiang
yeah,
was known as
but
Sir India. Sorry,
Xinjiang,
claims hai bhai
what
apna to.
what the what is called the Kushan Empire, the what is called the Karakota Empire, they had the entire Xinjiang and Tarim Basin as part of India. So what stops India from going back to its historical claims? And Tibet, of course, was never part of India in history. It's only 1949 that they forcibly occupied Tibet. That's a historical fact of very recent vintage. And yet we are so coy about talking about it. We won't go to Taiwan, and China will keep doing everything. We won't hurt their sensibilities, even if China keeps
Excuse
hurting
me.
our sensibilities. At look at the way their official mouthpiece, Global Times, comes out with all kind of ridiculous rants against India and Indian sensibilities. So what kind of policy is this? I mean, I remember Karl Popper, and I repeat that very often, that tolerating intolerance will only lead to the end of tolerance. That doesn't seem to
So,
strike
but look at some of the
Indians.
comments that I
Well,
see
just
on
one sec, just
Twitter.
one sec, one sec. That the Indian philosophy from time immemorial has been Shathe Shatyam Samacharet. Where has that Chanakyan intent gone?
So it again goes down to not wanting to antagonize the larger power, I guess. And that's what it is. There is and what holds you back, it's because our own development hasn't been up to speed, both in terms of economic strength as military strength. But however, having said that, look at some of the arguments which I see on Twitter when we talk about Taiwan. नहीं भाई वो तो भी claim कर रहे हैं अरुणाचल में, they have claims in Arunachal and all that. I mean, how does it matter? One, once if Taiwan as it intends to be an independent country, it will not have any contiguous border with India, and it will have no claim. It's going to claim only its own island, which is there right now. So it's not going to have any claim of a larger China. It's going to be an independent country if that's going to happen. Apart from that, when was the last time Taiwan claimed any of Indian territories? Might have some old maps or whatever, but it has never made any claim that we hold rights towards Arunachal Pradesh or any Indian territory. And do you think it's realistically possible for Taiwan to claim any part of Indian territory? But what is possible for India is to use the old dictum: enemy is my friend. We have not used that. We have shown sensitivity towards the Chinese, respected the one China policy, and we have paid the price. I would say the economic price has been immense. The economic price has been immense. Not only this, the Taiwan question, across the region, because we have been holding to Chinese sensitivities. Look at, for instance, weapon sale, right? India has certain, I mean, we are not a great weapons exporter or manufacturer, but there are certain weapons which we could have exported to Southeast Asian countries. I mean, we have been talking about selling, say, BrahMos forever. for the last donkey's years that we're going to sell BrahMos to Vietnam. I mean, apart from the strategic dimension, look at the straightforward thing of economics. I mean, that would get us money. It will subsidize our own BrahMos development, right? But we have not done that. So there is a cost attached to keeping on adhering to these Chinese sensibility. I mean, last if you remember in my last year's Jaipur dialogue, I said this: the cost we pay for this tolerating of Chinese sensitivities is immense. It's about time that we just stop. It's just hurting us.
Yes, that's a very good point that you bring on the table. There's the economic cost in addition to the strategic cost that we pay. And of course, the economics is an integral part of the strategic cost. That's very right. Now, let's try and work scenarios, okay? Suppose, just one scenario I put before you, that today we recognize Taiwan. What happens? I mean, China is already breathing down our neck in Ladakh. What else can it do? It can't do anything worse.
Uh, what do we recognize? So first question is Taiwan going to declare independence, right? So first, what India does comes later. What Taiwan does first is important. So is Taiwan going to declare itself as an independent country? And if that happens, I think India will recognize it as an independent. As things stand, I think India will be. I will. There'll be enough domestic pressure for India to recognize Taiwan as an independent country. So the ball, first of all, is in Taiwan's court. There are a lot of things that India can do, which is a kind of a recognition as to how its policy towards Taiwan will be. So how we recognize its what is called its trade and cultural center. How do we use that? Can we call it in a different manner, which kind of gives a hint? That may be a possibility. But how do you recognize a country which is not declared itself as an independent country? So that's the first question.
Okay. Now let's come to another point that's regarding Tibet. Of course, having the central Tibetan administration located in Dharamshala in India has always been a sore point with China. But in spite of having this central Tibetan administration located in India, India has always, kind of, again, been very quiet about it. Now there seems to be some kind of a strategic movement in that direction, in the sense that Lobsang Sangye, the president of the Central Tibetan administration, has just been invited by the USA. I'm not sure, but probably it is for the first time that this has happened.
Yes.
And that does indicate a global strategic shift. How do you see India reacting to this global strategic shift? That is question number one. And the question number two is, what do you think would be India's, or should be India's optimum response?
I don't think it's a global strategic shift as yet. I think it's the US which has taken the lead now in doing what it has. I mean, yes, it is the first time that the president of Tibet has been invited to the US. And look at, I think till last year we were running away from Dalai Lama events, and that has been our response so far. So how it's going to change, it remains to be seen. I don't know. The thing is, we have so often talked about the Tibet card. I mean, isn't it? How would Tibetans feel about it that being used as a card? So, you have to have a proper, some kind of both a moral as well as a strategic intent as to what you think about the Tibetans' position. Are you going to help them get their homeland back? If so, how? And are you going to collaborate with your other partners? So if today the United States has invited the Tibetan president, what is its intentions now? Do we have any kind of a roadmap? So all that has to be worked out before probably we announce anything. Otherwise, the Tibetans are going to feel that just whenever you feel like, you guys just flag the Tibet flag, and then when the time comes when the Xi Jinping's visit India, you lock us up and put our flags away. So so I think there has to be firm policy as to what we intend to do. Are we going to do anything about the Tibetans or the Tibet? I mean, for all you know, I mean, India holds some of the historic rights in Tibet itself in Mount Kailash. So are we going to talk about that? I don't think we have not talked about that ever. I mean, Kailash Mansarovar is one of the most holiest places for India, for the Hindu culture, and it's on the other side. I mean, when the Chinese keep saying wherever its own old explorers have gone that belongs to China, then what about that? This is very much part. I mean, still recently, where the revenues used to come to the Raja of Jammu and Kashmir. So what about that? So India has to firm up as to what it wants, what it believes, and does it want to first? And for that, probably we have to come to a conclusion that China is an enemy. It is we'll have adversarial relations with it. No matter what you do, it's not going to become a friend. Then you talk about living in a kind of a coexistence with a bit of a conflict, or there will be a state of conflict, a state of friction. There will be ups and downs, and you'll have to live with it. So whatever decisions you make, you'll have to stand by it and not back down. So first of all, you have to recognize that China is not going to be a friend.
Suppose you were in a decision making capacity, just assume for a moment, then what would you do towards the Tibet question? How would you signal your strategic intent?
You have the biggest advantage. The Tibetans in India, the government in exile over here. How are you going to play up that question? First of all, you talk about that. You start raising the issue of Tibet around the world. Have we ever done that? We have not. So you start with that. Obviously, we are not going to just go and conquer Tibet. I mean, that's far fetched, at least for now. But how do you start working up? Then how do you reach to the other side? We know thousands of monasteries have been destroyed in Tibet. The oppression which is going on over there, that how the cultural genocide which the Chinese have undertaken over there, to wipe out the Tibetan culture, the language, everything. So how are we going to promote that? How do you promote Tibetan culture, the language? How do you connect to the other side? I mean, then you're talking about sending the Tibetans back to their homeland. I mean, all that would be decades from now. But what do we do today? That's something that we can do. How do we engage with the Tibetan government in exile? So the US has done that right now, calling the president. I mean, that's so bad, right? You call the president of the Tibetan government. Forget calling it government in exile. The president of Tibet. So you start with the government and you hold the AS. They are right here. You start engaging with them. What kind of donation are we going to, to promote Tibetan language and culture? How do we connect to the other side? How about starting a radio broadcasting station right at the border, which goes across to the other side? The Tibetans can hear. I mean, look at the some of the reports which came when the SFF was the one tasked with some of the readjustments that happened in August, end of August, on the south bank of Pangong. The kind of responses that we're seeing over there, that they can see the homeland over there. So that is the kind of enthusiasm which is how are you going to tap that? So you have so much. You have you know trained soldiers who are waiting to fight, but that time is still not there right now. At least as far as going across and capturing Tibet is concerned, that's not going to happen. But there are a lot of things that can be done. But there has to be intent from our side. There should not be any half measures. That's a problem, right? You can't, send messages, just messages to, and you think the Chinese are going to get scared. No, they will react, and you should have a proper plan in place. It's not be just a message, but a proper framework, a structure in place as to what you're going to do. Otherwise, the Tibetans are just going to feel that we're just using them, and then they'll be confined to the same old. I mean that's what we did with Balochistan, right? We just talked about Balochistan one fine day, and then nothing has been done, right? We've just forgotten about them. And then what did the Pakistanis do? They just went after the Balochis over there. So it hurts, and it hurts our image as not being a serious player when we talk about take up some issue, some cause of any strategic purpose.
All right. Okay. Then another aspect of One China is Hong Kong and Macau, the so-called what is called special autonomous territories, special autonomous regions, SARs. Those SARs, the West and also India, they've had a lot of independent agreements and treaties with Hong Kong in their what is called great wisdom that it is actually independent of China. Now the whole thing has come to roost,
Yeah.
and the pigeons have come home to roost, and the reality is there before everyone. And how does that work out? Now, let's say whether uh, China actually downgrading Hong Kong's position as an economic hub, is it going to affect China or is it going to affect the world? I'm talking in the global context, One China in the global context.
Look at the reactions that come, starting with extradition treaties. All the countries that had extradition treaties with Hong Kong have now scrapped it. India has not done so, and India has a vested interest in Hong Kong. A lot of our citizens live over there, or people of our origin live in Hong Kong. So we do have a vested interest in Hong Kong. India had until the Chinese started to reroute trade from Hong Kong. India had a trade surplus with Hong Kong to a tune of about $5 or $6 billion a year. Now that has changed to a deficit because the Chinese are shipping via Hong Kong to bypass some of the other measures that India has taken. So that is happening. Globally, Hong Kong, the image of Hong Kong obviously is hit. Countries like Singapore are benefiting from it, which offers a very kind of a similar economic freedom or whatever was there in Hong Kong earlier. Now migrating to Singapore, and probably you might see even say Dubai benefit from it as financial centers, etc. So uh, I don't think the Chinese are probably going to be bothered about it now. I think they have decided that some of things might be just scorched earth. I mean, they are ready to, rain missiles on Taiwan, which is a very prosperous country, billions of dollars worth of, the lives apart. I mean, that's the key. I mean, they're not bothered about lives, but even the economic aspect, they're ready to destroy Taiwan, rain all the missiles it has got, just so that it can capture the island. So some of the things China is not bothered about when it comes to its territory, and it's a show of force. I mean, it's a show of power that it doesn't care. There's certain things that it will do regardless of what the consequences are. So we'll have to devise our policies based on that.
So, in a sense, would you agree that China is the new Germany of 1930s?
It is. I don't think it cares. There is no respect for rule of law. I mean, look at the India context. We have been signing agreements with it. We have abided by all the rules of whatever we've agreed to. What did China do? I mean, it tried to abide by no guns, but it got rods and nails, right? I mean, this is how. So there is no respect for rule of law. I mean, how do you deal with a rogue country? It does not believe in rule of law. It will bend laws. It will cite laws where it benefits, and it will bend the laws or break the laws where it benefits. So and then it's just going to use its economic and military power to just muscle its way across with any of the smaller countries. So that's why like-minded countries have to get together to counter it. So one of the questions that which can come up with the like-minded countries will be the question of one China. Tibet, sorry, Taiwan has been very, very vocal about itself, its own unique independent identity. I mean, short of declaring independence, they have done everything. I mean, just yesterday, the foreign minister tweeted sovereign state. I mean, it's. I think it's a matter of time. Perhaps if there is a conflict between India and China before the winter or maybe after. We don't know how the situation is going to pan out. Taiwan might as well use that opportunity to declare formal independence because China will be occupied with India. or Taiwan may just go ahead and declare independence. I mean, what is remaining now? I mean, they have been very assertive about their independent identity.
I know, and especially the new government, or rather, the repetition of I Sing Wen,
The
is
re-elected.
actually, yeah, that signals the intent to the Taiwanese public. So, with that, we can conclude the session. And once again, viewers, please do like, subscribe, share, and press the bell icon. And thank you very much, Yusuf, for
Thank you.
enlightening us on this very important aspect of our strategic sphere and our foreign policy. Let's hope that we do develop a little more muscle in our foreign policy and stop moving away from that Nehruvian consensus, which, according to me, was nothing but neither being here nor there. Thank you very much. And thank
Thank
you for joining us on this dialogue. Thank you.
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.